What's going on, everybody? Chris Shanafelt here. We're talking Super Bowl 52, New England Patriots, Philadelphia Eagles, and to do that with me here tonight is Jovan Alford at Jovan10 on Twitter. He's the founder of TotalSportsLive.com, does some work for the Philadelphia Tribune as well. Jovan, how's everything going, man?
I'm doing good, Chris. Thanks for having me on. It's first time doing this. Obviously, we used to do a lot of the Blog Talk Radio, so it's good to see you using this new platform and new venture. And glad to be talking Super Bowl 52, which should be a very interesting game for the Eagles and the New England Patriots.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on. It's a lot of fun doing this whole new video thing. So, again, still pretty new to me, but again, glad to have you on, Jovan. And you're very familiar with the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously. You've been covering the team for years. You're in the Philadelphia, you're in the city of Philadelphia. You work in the heart of the city. I mean, what's the energy level been like? I mean, not only this past week, since knowing the Philadelphia Eagles will be playing in Super Bowl 52, but really throughout the season. I mean, the Eagles are the number one team in the NFC. They've been the number one team in the NFC for all season long. And then Wentz goes down, Nick Foles steps in, and you guys, the quarterback position, it kind of, you were able to see the drop back from Wentz to Nick Foles, but hey, you guys are, or I should say, the Philadelphia Eagles. They still made it to where they wanted to be at. Obviously, the job isn't done just yet, but here they are at Super Bowl 52. What's it been like for the city of Philadelphia this season?
Oh, it's been an exciting season, especially here in Philadelphia. It's kind of like unexpected almost because no one really expected the team to get this far. No one expected them to get to the Super Bowl. It was kind of like you're playing with house money, almost like the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got off to a good run. And the Eagles got off to a good run, so you're just like, okay, whatever happens, happens. After the bye week, they're like 10-1. You're in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, maybe there's a Super Bowl, maybe it might happen, but you just don't know because you don't want to never jinx yourself because that's always, if you're a Philadelphia sports fan, you understand you never want to jinx yourself because always the bad things always happen. But yeah, it's been an exciting season. Obviously, when Carson Wentz went down against the Rams, it was horrible, just to see him go down because he was having he was having an MVP caliber season. He had, I think he went down week 14 and he had 33 touchdowns. There are still 3 more games left in the season. He could have had about 40, which has just been ridiculous for a second year quarterback. So, with him going down, that was definitely a buzzkill. But then Nick Foles stepped in, had that great game against the Giants. 4 touchdowns, you're thinking, okay, we might be all right. Everything should be good. Nick Foles got this, Mr. 27-2. Everything's going to be all right. But then the ceiling kind of drops a little bit with the Raiders game. Then the Cowboys game wasn't that good. So then you head into the playoffs and you're like, oh, my God. Like, maybe the prognosticators are right. Maybe the 6th seed Atlanta Falcons might beat the Eagles. But, defense played well. So there's been a lot of excitement in this city. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of optimism, which is very different because I remember, just with championships before, a lot of people would be skeptical of, the Eagles and, just be skeptical heading into this moment because it's like, again, you don't want to jinx yourself. But for the most part, I said there's a lot of optimism right now about this city.
No doubt about it, as there should be. Again, a season where expectations weren't very high. They weren't very low either. I think heading into the season, I think it's safe to say that Philadelphia was probably looked at as like a middle of the pack type team, and that was not the case as the season played out. And like you said, I mean, if Carson Wentz never got hurt, I think it would be a pretty safe bet to put your money down on him being the league MVP. I mean, the season he was having and, just the way he was able to kind of help turn this team around. Obviously, it's not just been him. The Eagles, they've been very hands-on in free agency. They've been hitting some draft picks lately. And, of course, the coaching staff, starting with Doug Peterson, has done a great job as well. Looking at this Philadelphia Eagles team, though, even when Carson Wentz was in, that defense has been a strength for this team. I mean, they've been a top 5 defense, I think, all season long, and it certainly helped them, cruise through the playoffs, especially this past win against the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, they were hitting on all cylinders, offense, defense, and special teams. What would you say are the strengths when you watch this Philadelphia Eagles football team?
Definitely, like you said, the defense. Defense has been a staple of this team. You just look at their front four. I think their front four has been dominant, and you just look at who's comprised of that front four. You have Fletcher Cox. You have Fletcher Cox there in the middle. You have obviously Tim Jernigan, who the Eagles got in a trade before the NFL draft. Got him in exchange for a third round pick. So them in Baltimore, switched third round picks. But to get him in a contract year and to see how he's played has been phenomenal. And obviously Vinny Curry, he hasn't been what everybody thought he would be out of Marshall, because everybody remember out of Marshall, everybody pegged him to be a pass rushing specialist. But to see that him evolve in the run stopping game, and then obviously with the additions of Chris Long and Derek Barnett in the first round, and Bo Allen and Destiny Vio, this defensive line I think has been one of the biggest strengths of this Eagles defense thus far this season. You got to give a lot of credit to Jim Schwartz and how he's been able to maneuver and use these guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, it wasn't, you look at the stat line for Derek Barnett, and it's nothing crazy. 21 tackles, 5 sacks, a forced fumble. But I remember draft day, Jovan, and there were a lot of Philadelphia Eagles fans that weren't very happy with that pick. And again, I just read the stat line, and if you watch this team, again, that's been the strength of this defense, is the defensive line and the pass rushers, that they could just rotate in and out. You mentioned the depth. Tim Jernigan, Chris Long, again, Derek Barnett, Vinny Curry. The list goes on and on. It looks as if this Derek Barnett draft pick, though, in the first round from this past draft season, it may just work out in the end.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Derek Barnett, a lot of people were skeptical about that pick, because you're just like, why do we need a pass rusher? Why get a pass rusher? There's other needs. Obviously, wide receiver, a lot of people thought that was a need. Even running back, because you didn't know what you were going to have at that time. So when he was sitting there, you're thinking, all right, maybe they go corner, but then Marshawn Lattimore goes off the board at 11. So you're like, all right, won't get the corner. So you're thinking Garyon Conley, but obviously Garyon Conley got into that issue with that girl, I think in Cleveland. So that obviously knocked his draft stock down. Then Hassan Reddick goes to pick before Barnett. So you're just like, all right, I think we need to take this pass rusher. And he's been good. For a guy that, was dominant at Tennessee, breaking Reggie White's sack numbers with 33. That's ridiculous. The dude, he's a pass rusher. He gets to the quarterback, and I think we saw how good he was during the regular season. Like you said, the stats don't show it so much, but when you turn on the tape, he's always making a play. I have to say, between him and Marcus Smith, he's been a better draft pick than Marcus Smith by a mile. So you got to give it to him. They hit on the defensive end right there.
Hey, he's shown more in just this one season, Barnett has, than Marcus Smith has throughout his time as an Eagle. So clear to say. And
no doubt.
Five sacks in a rookie season, it's nothing to kind of just look past either. I think I was a little too harsh when I just initially said, didn't have the greatest stat line. Well, hey, if you're going to put up 5 sacks in a defensive rotation that includes guys like we mentioned, Tim Jernigan, Chris Long, Vinny Curry, that defensive line, Fletcher Cox, a part of that defensive line as well, you're doing pretty good for yourself. And as you mentioned, and I remember talking to you about this following the draft, when that draft pick was announced by the Eagles, Jovan, he broke Reggie White's sack record at the University of Tennessee. You said it again here tonight, and I think that alone is a good enough reason for a team like the Philadelphia Eagles to draft him. So Super Bowl 52, though, Jovan, the New England Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles. It seems like we've been here before, and that's because we have. What's different about this
matchup, we have,
though, in your opinion, compared to the matchup from, what was it, about 12 years ago?
Yeah, about 13 years ago, and if anybody that's my age, my God, you don't want to go back to that time. If you were an Eagles fan back between you were 11, 12 years old, you don't go back to that time. It was a very sad time. Your heart was broken early in that millennium, I'll just say that. But what's different about this time is that, remember, in 2004, the Eagles were expected to be there. They were expected because they had been there in 2001, 2002, 2003. They've been in the NFC Championship those years prior, but just couldn't get it done. Then all of a sudden, they go and get the likes of Jovan, Carson, T.O. and free agency. It's like they get their big splashes on both on the offensive and defense side of the ball. You had a young Brian Westbrook, you had Don McNabb in his prime, Dawkins there. You're like, this is the time. Let's do it. They get out to a great start. T.O. goes down, but they still get to the Super Bowl. Obviously, I literally just watched the highlights of that game for some reason. You watch the first quarter of that game, and there's 4 turnovers, and I mean, you can't win Super Bowl like that, having 4 turnovers. Like, that's just ridiculous. But I think that's the difference. This Eagles team in '04 was expected to get there. The Eagles team this year, it wasn't expected because I don't think a lot of us thought they would get to this point. I remember before the season started, I had them pegged at getting, only 8 wins this season. And for them to, do that, I thought for them to play this well, I thought they did a good job. I thought they did a good job about it. So got to give credit, to them, this season. And I think the Patriots are always expected to get there too. So that's what I think about Super Bowl 52.
Well, Jovan, you've kind of tuned into the new show I've put together with former Chicago Bears defensive back DJ Moore, and you certainly know both DJ and I thought that Philadelphia they'd be long gone by this point in the playoffs. See Philadelphia making it to the Super Bowl. Talk about the underdog mentality that this team has. We all see it. We all hear about it. Chris Long bringing out the dog mask and wearing it following that win against Atlanta, I believe was when he first broke it out in the playoffs. What has that side of things done for this team, being viewed as an underdog, and has it really helped make this team more motivated and kind of give them an added chip onto their shoulder?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. This underdog mentality is something that this team has rallied behind, and you just have to look at this regular season, the way that they got out. They got out to a 9-1, 7-1, 8-1 start, and a lot of people still didn't want to give them the credit. And, a lot of people will say, well, you didn't play nobody on the schedule, but as we know in the NFL, you can't pick who you play. You don't know even before the season if, this team's going to be bad or good. I mean, you look at the Eagles schedule. They start out the season against Washington. You're thinking, okay, maybe Washington's going to get better. They were okay. Kansas City, you said, okay, Kansas City, that's a playoff team, all right. Oakland, you see Oakland on the schedule, you think Oakland's going to be good. Arizona, you thought Arizona was going to be good, but they weren't that good. So you only can play who they are on the schedule. And I think a lot of players, I think Malcolm Jenkins said it during the press conferences on opening night, on the Super Bowl 52 opening night press conferences. He said that this team has carried this chip on their shoulder this whole season about them being underdogs. He said a lot of guys have been cut, have been traded, pretty much just gotten rid of from, their previous teams or whatever, and they've all come together to put this thing together, or, drafted, at positions that they didn't think they were going to be drafted at, or they're drafted lower than where they probably projected at. So they just carried this mentality going this whole season. And obviously, like you said, you look in the playoffs, the odds makers and you guys, and I know I gotta give y'all, I know y'all had to do it because, your media personalities and, that's how you do it. And obviously nobody blames you and faults you guys for, picking them as as not going against them because they're the underdog. And obviously Vegas thought it too, but they really believed in that moniker, and obviously the fans have believed it too because everybody was. You looked at that stadium a couple weeks ago against Minnesota. You saw every type of dog mask, from the German Shepherd dog mask to the Poodle dog mask. So I mean, fans have brought into it like never before.
Yeah, that was great, and and I believe there's charities that are actually benefiting from those masks being purchased as well, which is probably the best thing of it all. And kind of talking about the MVP of this team, and again, he could have been the MVP of this league. Quarterback Carson Wentz in his second year out of North Dakota State. I mean, he was lighting the world on fire. I mean, 33 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions, over 3,200 yards. He goes down. Nick Foles steps in. Talk about the weapons both of these quarterbacks have had the pleasure of throwing the ball to. Acquiring Alshon Jeffrey in free agency, picking up Torrey Smith, drafting a couple wide receivers, acquiring Jay Ajayi, midway through the season from the Miami Dolphins via trade. Again, a lot of love is going to be given to the quarterback when the team does well. A lot of hate is going to be given to the quarterback when the team struggles. But what about the other guys? What about the other weapons that have helped, this offense and, since Wentz has gone down, helped Nick Foles, pick up some slack?
Oh yeah, when you look at the offense, we've seen we've seen what can happen when you give a young quarterback weapons. Year one, Carson Wentz, he was okay, but he wasn't great, and that's because you got to look who he was throwing to. He was throwing to Jordan Matthews, Dorial Green Beckham, Nelson Aguilar. Nelson Aguilar has had a superb year this year. A lot of people were riding him off as a bust. I know I was, and he's came in and been used properly, and I think in the position he's supposed to be, in the slot wide receiver. He's made a lot of plays out of that position. So you see that, and you see the Eagles say, okay, we need to upgrade and give our young guys some weapons. And what do? Like you said, they go get Alshon Jeffrey. Shout out to Chicago. Thank you for him. Get him for a year, pretty much betting on himself. Because I think he had a bigger offer from the Minnesota Vikings, I'm not mistaken. So he comes here on a 1-year deal, bets on himself. He plays phenomenal. Torrey Smith was another low-key signing by the Eagles. He's played well. And like you mentioned, trading for Jay Ajayi at the trade deadline was just it was a good trade, because you only gave up a 4th-round pick for a guy that the Dolphins somehow was souring on for him being apparently too real about certain things that were going on in the organization. So to get him on Halloween to go with LeGarrette Blount, who was another good solid signing for a 1-year deal, and a lot of people were calling for LeGarrette Blount to be cut in the preseason, but he's a veteran. They're not going to always show all their hands and show all their cards in the beginning of the preseason. So to add him in conjunction with that has been fantastic. Fantastic to help both Nick Foles and Carson Wentz. Then you look at obviously Trey Burton. He's played well as the Eagles' second/third tight end, and even Zach Ertz. A lot of people got to look at this. Zach Ertz has played, probably has been. He's having the breakout year that everybody thought he would have, and a lot of people have been counting on him to be that guy. And he is that guy this year for Carson Wentz, and we always know that a tight end is a quarterback's best friend. And then you add Corey Clement, who's the undrafted free agent, rookie running back out of Wisconsin. He's played well, too. So when you add all those, different elements together, you can see why Carson Wentz has played well this season, and you see why Nick Foles has just picked up from where Carson Wentz left off at.
No doubt about it. And talking about those acquisitions, whether they were during free agency in the offseason, during the NFL draft, or during the season, like the acquisition of running back Jay Ajayi, Jovan, I mean, how much credit is given to Howie Roseman and how he's been able to build this team kind of from the bottom up? I mean, address the quarterback position, quite a few times since he's been there. I mean, bringing in Sam Bradford. Okay, this isn't really going to help us reach the top. Then decided to go ahead and trade up and draft Carson Wentz, number 2 overall. Kind of zeroed in on him, marked him as his guy, and if Carson Wentz continues to have similar seasons like he had this past season, but can stay healthy, of course, that'll certainly be a whole. That's looking like a all-out home run there at the quarterback position, the most important position in all of sports. How much credit does Howie Roseman get from the media, from the fans? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, early on, or before Wentz came to town, I mean, there was quite a lot of heat coming his way during the Chip Kelly era.
Oh yeah, definitely. When Chip was here, it was almost kind of like Howie Roseman was banished out of the NovaCare complex into a little closet. Because they had given Chip the keys to the car, and what happened? Chip ran amok, and he decided he wanted to do his things his own way and kind of tore the team down. And it was up to Howie Roseman to bring this team back up, and it all started with getting the head coach in Doug Peterson. That was the start. And Peterson, he goes out and hires this coaching staff, getting guys who he can depend on, saying, I'm going to trust Jim Schwartz. He's going to be my coach of the defense. I know he's going to do it. Frank Wright, getting him, Joe DiFilippo, doing that. And then, like you said, the acquisition that Howie Roseman did, to help build this team back up, obviously getting your franchise quarterback after seeing the Sam Bradford experiment wasn't going to take you to that next level. It was risky, no doubt. It was risky. Especially how they had to trade up to get up to number 2. They had to trade Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell to Miami to move up to 8, and they had to package some more picks and like some Godfather type offer to Cleveland. And they take a risk on a guy in Carson Wentz who, me and you talked about that during that draft season. I was kind of know what type of quarterback Carson Wentz was going to be. Remember, he was projected in some mock drafts as a second-round guy. And, I think the thing that we always said was beware the late riser. Like, he was rising really fast, and you're just like, I don't know. He's rising this fast. I don't know if he's going to be that good. And obviously, he's proven everybody wrong. So, like you said, Howie Roseman done a great job. The media, the fans, they've given Howie a lot of credit because any person in his position, they could fall. Like, Chip took his mantle, and now he had to try to fight it back to go get it. And he's definitely did that. And then obviously bringing on a guy like Joe Douglas, who you guys in Chicago are very familiar with, and what he did, obviously drafting Jordan Howard, and just having his drafting expertise in that front office definitely helped the Eagles, because we've seen what they did in this year's draft, getting Derek Barnett, Mac Hollins. Just those 4 guys alone have all made impacts on this team. So to just get all those 4 guys in the first 4 rounds of this year's draft class is pretty impressive. And that's how you build the team, and Howie Roseman kind of showing that. You build a team, through the draft, free agency, and then, just building the guys that you have around you and finding good coaches that will fit the philosophy and teach what they preach.
You got that right. A lot of credit should be given to Howie Roseman, and a lot of credit sounds like is being given to Howie Roseman and how he's been able to build this Philadelphia Eagles team. A couple more questions for you, Jovan, then we'll let you go. Again, we're chatting with Jovan Alford at Jovan10 on Twitter, of Total Sports Live, TotalSportsLive.com. Check out the website. Before we wrap up this Super Bowl conversation, Jovan, got to get a prediction out of you. Super Bowl 52, Philadelphia Eagles, New England Patriots. Who wins and why?
All right, so I think this is going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout on either end, even though a lot of people are picking the Patriots to win this game. I don't blame them. When you got the GOAT on one side with, Ron Gronkowski and Brandon Cooks, I mean, hey, I would pick them too. But I'm going right now. Eagles beat the New England Patriots 28-24. Close game. I think, obviously, defense is going to have to play well. I think the Eagles' running game is going to get on board, and I think Nick Foles, he's not going to play as well as he did against Minnesota. That was an anomaly, and Doug Peterson throwing a flea flicker, that was an anomaly too, because that's ballsy. That's big balls Doug right there. That's ballsy. But I think the Eagles win 28-24, which will be a pretty exciting time in Philadelphia if that does happen.
Hey, I've been on record many times. All I want is a great game, a close game. I do not want a game similar to the NFC Championship game in which the Philadelphia Eagles just blew the doors open on the Minnesota Vikings. So if we could get a game that's a 28-24 final score and is close throughout the game, I will be perfectly fine with that. With that said, I cannot bet against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. I think I'm leaning towards the Patriots, although I will say my heart is hoping the Philadelphia Eagles could pull the upset. But until that happens, I got to say I'm rolling with the Patriots. I'm rolling with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. If I had to give a final score, I'll go Patriots 27, Philadelphia 18. So a 9-point victory for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I thought you were going to say 27-24. I was like, no, please, I don't. Their heart. I don't want to relive childhood all over again. Please don't do that to me. Please.
No, I wouldn't do that. I'm not that harsh. But again, if I was a betting man, I'd go with the Patriots. But with that said, fly Eagles fly. I'd like to see Alshon. I'd like to see Alshon win that ring. He promised a year ago that he was going to win a Super Bowl this season. Didn't specify on which team that would be with, and here he is with the Philadelphia Eagles playing in Super Bowl 52 in Minneapolis against the New England Patriots. One last topic before I let you go, Jovan, and that is, normally around this time, when it comes to professional football, it's all Super Bowl talk. All there is to talk about is, previewing this matchup, and maybe you talk a little bit about the championship games that just occurred, a little over a week ago as well. But we had some major breaking news a couple of days ago, and that was with the Washington Redskins, who decided to trade a third-round pick and cornerback. Kendall Fuller for quarterback Alex Smith from the Kansas City Chiefs. Alex Smith, he's 4 years older, I believe, than Kirk Cousins, and I don't know if you're necessarily getting a better quarterback. You might be getting a little bit more of a safer quarterback. I mean, he doesn't turn over the ball as much as Kirk Cousins might, but I'm not so sure. I like what the Washington Redskins did here in this deal. Got rid of already one of the better nickelbacks in the league in Kendall Fuller, and a third-round pick to bring in a quarterback in Alex Smith, who, again, is 4 years older than the option that you just had under center in Kirk Cousins. And, you've been paying Kirk Cousins a lot of money, I believe about $24 or so million under the franchise tag this past season. He was under the franchise tag last year as well. That's a lot of money for just 2 years of quarterback play when you decide that ultimately you're going to just move on from the guy. But I guess
Right.
Washington seen enough of they've seen all they had of Kirk Cousins and decided that it was time to move on. Obviously, this deal will not go into effect until the new league year begins in March. But all signs point, so technically, I've seen that both, either of the teams can pull out if they really want to. But all signs point
Right.
to this deal going into effect come the new league year in March. Came out of nowhere. You don't really see news like that breaking, during the Super Bowl week, but this year it did. Alex Smith is now a Redskin, and you seen what happened last time. Your guy Andy Reid traded a 33, 34-year-old quarterback
This is true.
to Washington.
This
and
is
that was
true.
Donovan McNabb. How will it work out this time?
I think obviously, Andy Reid kind of got over on Washington. He shipped off a older quarterback to turn over the reins to a younger guy, Patrick Mahomes, who they drafted within the top 15, top 10. They're ready to turn it over, to him. Alex Smith did a great job in Kansas City. He got them to a certain level where they need to be. But again, this is a very young team on offense, and why not give Patrick Mahomes a chance and just let it turn him loose? What Alex Smith lacks, Patrick Mahomes has. He has a cannon for an arm. He has, his arm is more live. While Alex Smith is, Captain Check Down, Mr. Dink and Dunk, whatever analogy you want to use or moniker, that's what Alex Smith is. He doesn't open up that, chief passing game as much as a lot of people would like to, especially when you have weapons like a Tyreek Hill and a Travis Kelce who like to get vertical, and that fits what Patrick Mahomes like to do. And then you add this year, that Chiefs offense might be a little scary especially if they can get an third round pick and Kendall Fuller just to add to Marcus Peters already. I mean, that's pretty nasty. But Washington, like you said, is kind of confusing. They're almost trying to, I guess, think they have a chance to win in the next few years with Alex Smith. Like you say, he's 33 years old, and then we can't forget he signed an extension 4-year, $94 million with $71 million, which is just enormous for a quarterback at that age. And you just have to wonder, like, what are they trying to do with the offense? Because you have players who also need to get vertical. You have a Jordan Reed, if he's healthy, that can get vertical. You have a Jackson, if he can finally come into his own eventually, can get vertical. Terrell Pryor, who knows if he's coming back. So it's a very puzzling move because he's an older quarterback. The offensive line wasn't great in Washington. And now, like you said, you're paying all this money to Alex Smith, but you couldn't pay it to Kirk Cousins, who, like you said, who was 4 years younger. The same guy you drafted the same year you drafted Robert Griffin III. and you kind of just give all that money to Alex Smith after you pretty much said to Kirk Cousins, hey, let's put you on like the next 2 years and we'll see what happens. Almost kind of, friend zoning them a little bit.
Yeah.
But they did.
Yeah, I mean, totally a big slap to the face to Kirk Cousins. I mean, not only do they trade for another quarterback in Alex Smith, but almost immediately. I mean, I think, maybe a half hour, probably not even an hour after this news of this trade that went down broke, Alex Smith signed a 4-year extension, like you said,
right.
Over $70 million guaranteed. If you're willing to give that to a quarterback, again, 4 years older, and, I don't really know if there's a huge difference between an Alex Smith under center or a Kirk Cousins under center, but if I had to choose, I think I'd probably go with Kirk Cousins. Again, the 4 years younger part, alone. That, and I still think, and I'm not the biggest Kirk Cousins fan, but I still think he has a little bit more room to grow. And, I'm not so sure. There could be, and I know it's still very early on in this discussion, but, I think there could be a fall off of the production that Alex Smith shows this year because, the weapons he was surrounded around in Kansas City, there's nowhere near that in Washington. There are some nice weapons, familiar to a nice year this past season. Who knows if Terrell Pryor is coming back, as you mentioned. Josh Doxson, let's see if he can stay healthy. But there's a lot of question marks regarding that Washington Redskins offense. And then, like you said, Kendall Fuller and a third-round pick being shipped back to Kansas City. Kendall Fuller joins already a pretty good defense, a really good defensive backfield with, as you said, Marcus Peters, and let's not forget Eric Berry. All signs
right.
point to him coming back stronger and better than ever. And, that's certainly not a human being I would doubt at any point. So, again, a very interesting trade that went down during Super Bowl week, which rarely ever happens. I don't know if a trade this big has ever happened during Super Bowl week.
Nah.
This is what just happened a couple days ago. Alex Smith traded to Washington for Kendall Fuller, a young defensive back, and a third-round pick. Some craziness, a lot of craziness going on in the NFL lately, and it's only going to get even more crazy. Hopefully, come Super Bowl 52, Philadelphia Eagles, New England Patriots. Jovan, really appreciate you taking some time this evening, man. Before we let you go,
no problem.
Tell the listeners where they could check out your work at and the great things you're doing over at TotalSportsLive.com.
For having me on, and the NFL they wanted to steal the NBA. That's why they had to get that Alex Smith trade in because all them NBA trade deadline deals were about to happen. So the NFL had to get their little side piece in there. But people can check me out on Twitter. They can follow me at Jovan Tennant, and like you said, TotalSportsLive.com, part of the Sports Daily Network over there. We got a lot of great stuff on the website. A lot of Super Bowl coverage for everybody. Got a whole bunch of posts up there. Just today we posted our five Eagles to watch for in the game. Who needs to step up? And we got a gluttony of stuff coming out tomorrow, Saturday, and then Sunday for Super Bowl Sunday. So make sure you check out TotalSportsLive.com and follow the website on Twitter at TotalSportsLive.
Awesome. Keep up the good work, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks again, Chris. Anytime.